Hey everyone, can you hear us?
Hello. Yes, we can. Can you hear? Is the speaker working?
Yes, can hear.
It's obviously not.
Hello.
Can you say something?
Hello, 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 hello.
Can you say something?
Hello, hello. Can you hear us?
Oh, good.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Oh, excellent.
Perfect.
So the speaker is working today.
Yes.
Oh, 다야 버리치도.
Oh, 다다레 빼야고 준시네. Ale gishila kamati. Lotutsong yechilana diksareve kainsena yepechati tadun ramaswa. Ani konzo parkiam ne ngalatan tuba ina WhatsApp june.
Somehow we can
아, 넣었어.
Diksare lavna diksare.
그쵸, 롯데도 가, 연락할매.
Konsola yogire라. Konsola yogire.
아리칼리 얘기야.
So, could someone? I've been waiting to receive the text that you guys have. So, could someone take a picture of like 4 to 5 pages, for example, and send it through WhatsApp to me so I have the text that you have? Would that be possible?
Yes, give me a second. You're quite loud and I cannot change the voice on the speaker. Maybe. Can you say something?
Now, is the volume okay now?
Yeah, I think it's better.
Okay.
Okay. Cha, coffee?
뭐,
Okay. I will quickly take the pictures and do I have your number or is it just in the group?
너 와이참.
I'm not in the group, but I can write it here on the chat where Geshe is on the screen. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Or I can just say it. Actually, that's okay.
Ishila, which pages are we working with today?
Ale,
Right.
it doesn't correspond to the Tibetan. But basically where we left it off.
Finish the
like
first chapter?
we haven't finished yet the first chapter, no. We were on the chapter on rebirth that we were about to finish the chapter, like the part on rebirth, where is the reason to practice religion within that chapter.
Please, ladies, get yourself some hot water, tea, coffee. Okay. Did you send your number in the chat? Wait, Geshe.
No, I'll just say it to you. It's 0034.
1 second. Thank you. Which country is this?
Spain.
Spain. Yes?
0034 691
691, yeah.
682
682.
703.
703.
Okay. I will send you the pictures. You can start.
Lasso, thank you so much. Thank you for your help. That's very helpful. Lasso, Gishila. Konsola Tayare. Tanda tadunda ramasong ina yang.
Please.
Okay, start. Thank you, Tujana, that,
Ta pechanelona nye tanda lotu imnu kozon matangi pardura. Ngazo kawal lebson lana pechetila le yoire tena tande suchen ludan dirbe.
Teresha, Suchen Jungo, Girdom Madashi, Sume Yivlone, Pena Namka Maimbashi Namki was on Namka, Namka Maimbi, Mo Kirji Mebatavish, raise a cotton tea Badrush.
Lasso. Machitagi tanda partenzo chi le sonta kawa. Okay, I received the pictures. I'll just figure out where we are. Dina tande suchen ludan.
If anyone has any question, you can interrupt him anytime because we don't know how much you know about Buddhism already. Please just interrupt him. Whatever. If anyone here has any questions, you don't have to wait until the end. Please feel free to interrupt.
Yes, all right, that's lovely, thank you.
I'm just trying to find where did someone write down on the book exactly where we left off last class in English?
No. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. I will find it. There. N'entendez sujen ludan soumesem ni kyang nane luginyele lason. Luginyele
You all Marisha.
lason.
Oh, dancing dress, Tate, Tena, Tate, Suchen Ludan, Zume, Semi, that dancing dress, things to go to.
Lason. Lason. Okay. Oh, niyeson, Gisela, niyeson. Okay, I found the page. So if you on this book, it's on page 8, the second paragraph, where it starts saying, therefore, in reality, the mind flowing from a previous life acts as the substantial cause, etc. So that's where we left it. Oh, just
So, Ani Tana de Salmon was page a Tamal and some trash delacy, or Tombo Tamal paper gas issues, Chishurachi.
so apparently there are, I can't see you all, but there are new people who came today to class. So I want to welcome all of you, Teshidele, to all of you.
Oh, that's it. Then Tamachundi looked in the Param Ruchinima, Nimatapa Param Ruchiman, Rodigia, just saw Solidia, Chazan de Gigia, Chindrogonayang, Koni, Rotu Mudude, Ani Nimakashi Param Jinian to the Nibadini young Kasan Rotajora. Others Tamama, this Domro Jamni, Rishijavia Teens, and the drink Chenamoni Chachino Ma Param Jinin Dryings.
So we've already done 3 classes, which means we've advanced a little bit through the book, and we cannot now start from the beginning. So we will continue where we left off, but we can do a brief overview of what we've covered so far.
Oh, didn't do it. That's two the garrison number Sanji church, Chula, the Chion, the Tamba, any Ketchishu, which Garchaga or Esena, any Kiwangapchi, Kiwangama the Chima said Yobatan, or thinking about the mena, any church had to be a Ukubachimo Megi Chandriaga. What didn't it do the Santa that two the Gardika to carry the Shijaga Yosena, and you two the Kiwangachi Yubicola. Jiwangapsi yubi korla ani tas jiwangapsi ngama di kandi jiwa tanda kandi jiwa chima kandi sindogo yobe da otindi korla kaza da rishi jabdegi yores.
So You're looking at the chapter of the importance of religious or spiritual practice. And since spiritual practice, the relevance of spiritual practice goes along with the belief in past and future lives, first here in this part of the text is trying to demonstrate the existence of rebirth, the existence of past and future lives. So the reasonings why it exists and why it would be illogical for the mind not to have a continuum. So that's why in this part, in the part that we're covering now, we're talking about the causes and conditions that produce a mind and then continuity of this mind beyond the body.
the kind Joy Chimadria that also get Chimboji Chuchiala Candis Chare Lana. The two carriers number Sanji Church, I will chew with them that they to the carriage Shagorella do. To the Joachima Nams Deva, not only Doba Simpson Tamcheli Gundu Yodia, Deva took up go any Chawa switching Gajila, choosing Yota, and Joachima said the town in the Tamponi. Yaguji Hamago, the Kemelenki, and it teaches the shit to Tama Yungumidus.
And the reason why rebirth is so relevant to the Dharma, to the practice of the Dharma, is because when we talk about the Dharma, we're talking about guiding all sentient beings to happiness. And this is not something that happens in one lifetime, but throughout many lifetimes. So to learn about the Buddha Dharma without accepting past and future lives would just not work. It would make the Dharma irrelevant. It just would not work. The whole thing would not hold itself.
Oh, didn't you that the Kablama that Matu Jormuchi song that Leshi Losser Michiganalama, Tanda di Kaptula, and Jomachi Yobaga. You told that in the Suchini and your song you do.
And this is why now in the text that we're studying, which is opening the mind and generating a good heart, written by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he's discussing the probability or the probability of existence of a past life and a future life.
Oh, that in the Dana Dinaluk, Tanda Tindi Joangapsi, that in the Yobachi Hako Goala to Ketcha Chikardos and Chidangato Libo the Luda Simse, Loka Mudani Yobachi, Tanagara to Netang. So then me Simchen candidate in a Luda Simse, Korani Yobanani, and he has two the Simse the Simbasia the and the Simse Simdi. 아니 그 통마 매바지니 마 윤이 용나 뭐 겨왕 같이 매바이나 또 용타 가서네 용타 매바도 오지 임바도 수진 디두부두스.
And now here specifically what we're reading now, it says that the body and the mind, no matter what type of sentient being we are different. They are different, let's say different substances. And therefore the mind cannot be produced by the body. It cannot be produced by physical elements, by material physical elements. And therefore the mind must come from previous instances, and we cannot establish a beginning of the mind, which is why we say that the mind is beginningless.
Oh, then it's that in the same do any condition that then as it then the kind of mombo song share that is watching the Taji. Then as it in the Jimson the chain Tata Sujang Ludans, then the Dinan Malas the Sojon and the Sujang Ludans, who make a same need in Nani, when you look in your land. The Lugu, Lin to check you Karakari, your ass, the same the Karakari to put as Yaga, or Tini Sechuchene. Any same said you do the Yakochi Sechene, Tata Yakoji Shimba Yena, same digger. I get the Yakoji Shimba Yena, and Kiwangama Yobachi down. Kiwangama the Yoba Yena, and Kiwachima the Tara Chibachiga Yungu Yoba the Dini, Hako to Saries.
And this is why here, where we're going to start reading now in the second paragraph on page 8, it says, therefore, in reality, the mind flowing from a previous life acts as the substantial cause of this mind. So here it's trying to establish the cause for the mind, because if we're able to establish the main cause, when we say substantial cause, it's like the main cause of the mind, then we will be able to establish the existence of past lives. And if we're able to establish the existence of past lives, we'll definitely be able to guarantee the existence of future lives.
dinner Shangato, so then get Simching Kansak Sundaji in a Tomar Chuan di Tamba, and you Koran Luchi that Simjini Yam the Chukuyabatan. Didn't Yam the Chuan di Lutiga and you Libon Supon Tiga, and you carry shas in a carrier race on the Tejuchena and it up devotees. Maso Mindijina Peshana, Tanda Dina Son Rugina Pamag, Pamag Kuta di Balatene, and in also Subu lead the Lutin in Chukuyabatan, then Koran. Jerem chini yungu yoba te hako tu kogu yore te yina ya nangi semgi nyelende judi kare re siyon du ati taki zubun tupchi ka nanshi pama lula teni tupshare se na atin tiki mudu se ala soba ote mena ta semgu ani judi ngone te kare re se oti nga so hako gudu se.
And no matter what type of sentient being we are, every sentient being, once they're born with a body and they're born with a mind. So this is common to all sentient beings. And in a way, it's easy to establish the main cause of a physical body, right? Because in the case of us human beings, our body is produced by the sperm of our father and the egg of our mother. So thanks to these two elements, to these two substances, our body is produced. So this is quite easy to establish, but it's not so easy to establish the cause of the mind. If we try to demonstrate that the cause of the mind is again one's own mother's egg and one's own father's sperm, it is not so easy to establish that. So therefore we must investigate the cause. What is the cause of the mind?
Tindi le chawon di tenda dina ma losor mi jana songa cheba ina semji nyele pami semde nam yang ani jeto yo mare se diga mare de kare re se pe na se sonsha kundenga ani pama shirab chen pama shirab chen ani shijarigni la jetar ki kyang ani da buddha link ani chesaban di su ngani shito batari imbes takare tena su di ma donda songa chena ani pamag semne ma tanda ani bugu cheshaya bugu diga semgen ani gyuchigi yobata ti ringrawi nyeleng semde gyundi chigi yona ani pama ani ripa yakbo shibu tindi ta ani pe lobjong tombo yongi ani sen tombo yongi tindi ina ani diga ani bugu chama tindi yongo ori da kashi tindi yongo marde bugu kashi peti pama kheba tindi ina bugu chikang mashinge tindi ta yang pama chikang mashinge ina yang tele dote ani bugu da hajanga ani kheba chimbo tindi chaya tindi yongo yore sonza tisu gara haku gure sena tandang semde ani ngama da pama semla tini semgu jun ma tis ma ngo dro shani yong ja gi maimba ti haku dus.
So let's continue reading the text. So the text says, therefore, in reality, the mind flowing from a previous life acts as a substantial cause of this mind, and the blood and semen of our present parents acts as the substantial cause of this body, which is what we've been saying so far. As a relationship between the two was established by an action in former lives, a relationship exists between the mind and body of this life. Due to that, even a newborn baby or calf immediately after birth begins to eat or suck at mother's breast without being taught. This is an indication of instincts left in the mind of previous lives. 1 second, because I cannot see what Geshe was actually reading. Perhaps I misplaced. Kamachi Geshe yeah. Oh, okay. Just before that, I think at the end of page 7, give me a second. Okay, so go to the end of page 7, the third line starting from below. It starts by saying, thus, with reference to the present physical body. Okay, so I'm going to start reading from there. A non-physical mind, the substantial cause of the body, is the blood and the semen produced by the parents. But the parents' minds, and here's where we want to go, but the parents' mind cannot be the substantial cause of the present mind. For example, it is possible for a dull and foolish child to be born to intelligent parents, no matter how educated they are. So here it's trying to, here it's saying that if our parents' mental continuum were to be the main cause that produced our own minds, then if our parents were, for example, super intelligent and they were highly educated, how could it be that from very highly educated and very intelligent parents, sometimes we can get a child that is really not very intelligent? And the other way around also happens. Parents who are not very intelligent or who are not very educated can give birth to children which are highly intelligent. So it's saying that if it was the cause, if one's parents' minds were the cause of our own minds, then we would have to share our mental attributes. And we see that this is not always, that this is not the case, actually. So that's why once we can understand that one's parent's mind cannot be the cause that produces one's own mind.
Oh, thank you so much. Pami lisimji cha kayang pui tsendi ani simki ngon jura mes tindi tena se tindi jumsen tindi da ani nitsira ngu de kande chigre se te sondi ta kewa ngama ni yongwi semte simki nyelen ta tata I pami kuchaki ani luji nyelen shi tenyi ki ani drewa te se tsara ngami lishiki drumni ani tsendi lisim ki drewa chubare sonsha te karsungu dose di tatanda nga su ani semdi ki nyelende ani ngama ga ani pama ga ani tiga ani lui ta sem kaya chige ma ani chubyon ji ngo yong chaji nyelende chubshaji mares ta maina teni kandesi chugu duze de kyo ngama ni yong shaji sem susu kyo ngama ni yoji sem tiga tāngārā yani yu chēne, nyēne chēne, ani sem tu chūpa tāng, ani tātā yani pāma yani kuchā, watin dīpa la tēne, lū jīg nyēne chēne, tīgi lūn chūp, tī chēpa la tēne, yani kārsana kiawa di lēngu, tī nīga pā lū tā sem nīga chāwa chūya tēla, tānta tī jablo la lē, ngā tu nāmba sāngi visina lē sāna, lē, kiawa sā lē dūpa sā, tēne pēnchē ke lē sā chūra, tī lē tīga, tī sūmbo tī chā chōni, ani tānta ngātsugu ani tā mīna mī simche kārī na tīwa kiwa tā dhūpku rēsi, wāti sōngshā.
So I continue reading. From this, it can be seen that there is no part of the parent's bodies or minds which transforms into the child's minds in this life. Therefore, in reality, the mind flowing from a previous life acts as the substantial cause of this mind, and the blood and semen of our present parents acts as the substantial cause of this body. As a relationship between the two was established by an action in former lives, a relationship exists between the mind and the body of this life. So what this part is saying is that the substantial cause of one's mind cannot be one's parents' minds, and it cannot be one's own body. So the body does not produce, our physical body does not produce our mind, and our parents' minds do not produce our minds. Instead, what here it's suggesting is that one's mind actually comes from a previous life. It says the mind flows from a previous life. And it also says that the substantial cause for one's body is in fact one's own parents' sperm and egg, and this is the substantial cause for our body. And it states that there is a relationship between our mind and the present body that we take. There is a connection that is established through what we call within the Dharma karma, or actions made in previous life. And there are different types of karma. There is one type of karma which is called projecting karma. So it's the projecting karma which establishes a relationship between our previous mind, so the mental continuum of previous lives, and the body of this life. And this is why we are born in a certain place with a certain body in the present life.
Okay.
I'm asking the question here so Anna can hear me.
Okay.
In the West, we often have the idea that what is influencing our mind is most who is raising us, how they are raising us, our teachers, not just the parents. So what is Buddhism saying to this argument? Because in the West, we say like a part is genetic, but a way bigger part is our socializing. Can he
Mhm.
explain something about this, please?
Sure. Geshe kadishuyati kare onzo kare sugin tu lamna. Ane ngaso chitan nupcho la. Ane sem ta shugin tegin zowo di ani chizo re susu gen la re susu chalung chungna re chotine ane susu subo nano la gidze ane sem la shugin tebgi du yinayang zowo di chikzo nano la susu chalung chungdan dan chizo gi dona susu sem la zo di shugen tegen zo dires tan nambe kishun tente sungi tu yamena samsu shema yorebe dawa shema yorebe
re chidang su de shukin te de ken je de ani soson koryu ta ani soso ta dendi che ta dam da yujin mabu na so de chung yore ta ta re demba re yung yore ta ta kelen geres yina yam gaisina sem dig ko chi komcha ta ta mege chup chai jil ba ya yargin ro ya ta tindi ro ya ta da ken to so wang chung yo ba te demba re ta ru yore yina yang 당보 가서 막이 깨마 답이 셈디 아니 규가래지 제가 돈이 제주진이 딘디지가 남자하고 할 거나 깨왕 없이 요바디 하고 단다 내가 손대 손에 수디 되려샤 뭐도 지난 다가라래 다 소소고 수분하는 딘다마다 딘디 켄체바 있나야래 아니 소소라다 개겐다 지양 가르켄 가르치 마 야라네 디초고 야 차드야다 데니 코 롬총 카이 치삼에서 롬바 쿠교지 하데나 아니 코 셈바치 야르기드라 메니 다가라 하데 또 다가라 지고치 다가라 레시
What you are affirming is actually true. Well, we think it's also true. The mind is mainly conditioned by the environment it's in. So basically, it's our environment, and it's the society, and it's the people that surround us, and the type of the upbringing that we have that mainly conditions our mind. So this is actually true, and we believe this to be true as well. However, here what we are trying to establish is the main cause of the mind at the time of conception. And if we're able to establish the cause of the mind at the time of conception, then we're able to establish the existence of previous life. However, once the baby is born, then whichever conditions are more prevalent in the child's life is going to condition their minds. And it's going, because once the baby is born, then their consciousness, the mind, begins to grow and begins to develop. And this growth and development is mainly conditioned by as you stated, by the environment and by the society. And that's why we see when a baby is born in a place where there are no conditions for studying, they cannot go to school, and there are no people around that can teach them things, then the child cannot develop their minds in a certain way. So which demonstrates that the environment conditions a lot a person's mind.
But Geshe-la's argument was that when we are born, like children are born intelligent, even if they have not so smart parents. Couldn't that be due to like an uncle that educates them well, or a great teacher that they still become smart? Like, I don't see how this is really a proof for a previous life.
Oh, I see. Thank you. Yinaya Geshe-la dagi khare sumson lamna gewang ngama dubche chigi ane pama kashigi riba hachang yabo yenaya bugu konzu bugu ane riba dubo dendeyera yinaya di khandre di gewang ngama dubche khandre chagido kaisena pu kashi riba dubo yenaya so agu pena agu chigi lojon dena pu digi riba yaru daya yerebas di ribang gewang ngama yebe dubche khandre chagido
re. That the drawn to the two carriers, same day, Tanda Budi same the any Tanda Pamadi same daily Tagara Shiba the Ma Yun Tuni Ma Yun Yungu Yona, Di Mo Juni Yun Yungu Yona, any Pamadilla to Karsana cook up the chain to Karlobjon to the Kari cook up to the Rana, Budela Rana Ya Budiga, Shimato, the Pamadi she to be a nigga. Chaparji Yogore, the Betty Chapar Rosha, Tindi Yogu Sonza, that two the Karesana, same the Pama, same the Machi Mayimba, same Jig, any Shamba Marang, John Amag, same thing on the song where Tinichika and Joachim to Guyores.
Actually, what here it is saying is that if the mental continuum of the kid, of the child, was the same mental continuum of the parents because it was produced by the parents' mental continuum, if the parents are, for example, intelligent and the child got, let's say, the same studying conditions, or there's say similar conditions to study and develop their minds as their parents did, this does not guarantee that the child is going to understand all of the things that the parents did because they are of lesser intelligence, for example. So, which means that if the child's mental continuum was the same as the parents' mental continuum, then the child would need to develop the same kind of intelligence because it's the same mental continuum than their parents. But this is not the case. We see some children born from some parents getting great conditions to study and to learn, and however, their mental capacity or their intelligence is way less than their parents, and from this we can conclude that therefore the child's mental continuum is not the same as the parent's mental continuum. So the parent's mental continuum therefore does not produce the child's mental continuum.
I understand this, but in the West, we more believe that the baby, when it's born, is kind of like a empty paper, like clear slates. There's nothing there. And then this argument wouldn't work anymore. So I think that the Western idea is completely different. And how would he refute that? That the child is not born like with kind of an empty mind that is then formed after birth or maybe even in the pregnancy. But I think that's more the idea of the West, that there is not like a continuum from anything.
디 고추송 게실라 이나야 다 노적기 다와슈 쳔보 치라 카레여레 람나 보고된저 셈 밤에 균라 연기요 말레라 본적이 셈 담보 깨베갑라 안에 슈구 tomba chik chadeora 슈구 karbo kargyan tomba dongya 안에 치조 다 미예연 라수 저거 치즈기 슈긴 탭네 아니 보고디 리바야보 차기열에 리바두보 차기열에 저거 규예 안에 칠로네 연기여바 디 다와디열에 제자 단다디 게시 보고 된저 담보 기베갑라 보고 된저 기셈 담보 기베갑라 슈고 카보 드라보 칙 차기 여바 단다 리바디 단다 드립체디 시라시라 데 야보 용기요 말에서
단다 부춘춘지 게네 단다 디 리바 슈 가오로 찹데 덴바레 단다 슈 가오로 동바로 슈 동바로 지레 슈 동바로 데레스 가르세나 부츠 망저 치 랍나마도 단다 카이 미시니 카이 고치 미시니 아니 딘디 그 요아테 덴바레 디 리바디 단다 카 몽부치 랍나마도 싱게요 마레 딘디 레데요레스 인나야 딘디가 랍사게 딘디 리바테 딘디 리바지도 티 아니 유데 카레 칸디스 투구요레 또 탐보 시마 동바리나야 다 카리나다 티 탐보 유 카리니치 지니 투구두 세고 뜨지 하고 부두스 티 주마 마치도네 치 타하나 디두데 딘코 동바리들레 주마 시에 테네 치 치네 참마 두구이바 뜻템바 타하나 데샤스
In a way, what you're saying, it's true, because in which way are children's mind like an empty piece of paper, like a white piece of paper? They are like their minds aren't like a white piece of paper or an empty piece of paper in the way that unless you teach children things, they will not learn them. They don't come with their own knowledge to this world. They come with an empty mind, in the sense that unless we teach them, then they won't learn certain things. So in this sense, I agree that they come to this world with like an empty mind or a clean slate, right? However, this clean slate, which we call mind, what we're asking is whether the slate is clean or not, whether the piece of paper, which is their mind, has already something written on it or not. Regardless of that, where did this mind come from? Where does this continuum, which we teach things, where does it come from? What is the main cause? This is what we have to establish. We have to investigate in order to see where this mind is coming from, whether it is produced in this life, or it is produced, or it comes from previous lives. However, I do agree that in a way the children's minds are like a clean slate, because unless they are taught, then they do not learn.
우보 간다 간이나 두지 우보 간르지나 줄라테니 깨고요 바탕 규들이야 년len지당 가상치 년len지당 hen치치 제자가 니딩 니버 초고요 바데 베게 첨부지 어디좀 메나 좀 못이야 드니지 송고도 시티레 샤세 틴디 단다 아니 여기 부춘중 당보 마키어데 르박 싸워 당보 주비야 때려야 그런 게 균팀비가 아니 셈지도 뭔가 뭔을 여바치도 andro gogo yore de tele nyelen gu ju sing du sa pena ngaso jinga nang data tini ge yani saben tamni ki on di ngama saben diga ne ina ne dru gari di saben diga ani ko ya nyelen che ya dang di nang le chu dang sa dang de ne yang jing dam de ze dam na mo bu jabya de tu so ge ken je bar de tu so ka se ya ko yo nan dru ya ko de tini ki yo ba de tu so ji这个见的下去当不呀可能这个年龄的我사번 답아 나신 것이 단단 가서 부추지 깨마 답아 될래 양 뒤가로도 그런 야年龄그 용체 그 규지가 어때 되게 가서 저가 막 샘디 고군도시 뒤 송고도시
From a Buddhist perspective, we say that any conditioned phenomena, which we call functionality, so any phenomena conditioned by causes and conditions, it's called a functionality. So anything which is impermanent, like the body and the mind, they need a cause to arise. They cannot arise by themselves. And like we mentioned in the previous class, I believe it was on Friday, we said that there are two types of causes. There is a substantial cause and there is a comparative cause. So what we're trying to establish is the child's mind, which is newly born into this life. Once the child is born, the child's mind, what is the concordant cause that produces that child's mind when it's first born, or even when at the time of conception? And here we're trying to look for what we call the substantial cause, so the main cause. And to try to differentiate between the substantial cause and the comparative condition, we can put the example of a rice seed, for example. If we have a rice seed, it is the rice seed that will transform itself into a rice sprout, right? So therefore, the rice seed is the substantial cause of a rice sprout. However, a rice seed will not turn into a sprout just by itself. If it sits in a packet, it won't just sprout, right? It needs certain conditions, like, for example, water, heat, sun, etc. So these are the comparative conditions that allow for the substantial cause, which is the rice seed, to transform itself into a sprout. The comparative conditions by themselves, no matter how good quality they are, like the water, the fertilizer, the earth, and the sun, they will never by themselves transform into a rice sprout. And this is why they're not the substantial cause of a rice sprout. They're just the comparative conditions of a rice sprout. what will transform itself into a rice sprout is the rice seed. And that's why the rice seed is the substantial cause of a rice sprout. So similarly, here what we're saying is that the mind has a substantial cause, which is something like a seed that transforms itself into the mind. And then it has certain cooperative conditions. It can also have cooperative conditions, but those cooperative conditions, like the body, do not transform themselves into the mind.
Oh, tindido che tine tanu di wangi se ja ta ni kyong amma di sem di wang ma ani jungu yo tang ani gari yore se ne chiba kema thapatang shibanga tu puji ne kema thapatang tini di sondo piula so pa nam chance ngar kyo shen du ze sawatang ani chadang so la kombi top ki gari chi du se ne kema thapani ze sawatang ani nojon thongwa so la mugu ba 대달란 주방 이기 땡도 남미 빠차시 유비 겐기 인송샤 갈송도 제디 따때 부케마 타바 부춘춘디 이나레 아니 비우세데 심체네 비우드니 춘주들이 깨온디 깨마 타바 깨니 마던데 아니 소소라 지 아니 가르 제사 줘야다 아니 아마 노쇼다 나마다 전에 오마 통야 띵디 치다 베스지니 통한 줘야 될라 먹어 봐지니 코트 때다 용이야데 가르레잖아 kyanga ma tu tsol shivu ji kombi tokti mombo ji komni ene ti che thange rikte ga yin ba de ni lam go ban jogo shin yung yo res ani shira komcha me ni shira ani ti menge ri ka yin ba de te se shin ya lam sa yang temba je ni tsendili na yang temba je ro da tin yung yo res so da ma tu ani shi go ya gi chaw kar li na te li yang ni yang de komba de triba je ni ni ga tu ni na ni pa cha semgating la pacha sha de komcha de sem kombi cha de komcha de o ti ani ti wang ge to so ki yore se o tin so sha.
Then the text continues saying, due to that, even a newborn baby or calf immediately after birth begins to eat or suck at the mother's breast without being taught. This is an indication of instincts left in the mind from previous lives. So here it is saying that no matter the species, there are certain actions which come natural to the child and or to the calf due to having familiarized themselves with certain types of action, like for example a newborn baby which quickly sucks at their mother's breast, or a calf which also sucks at their mother's breast. And this has to do with imprints left. I think it doesn't say imprints here, but in the Tibetan it says that this is due to imprints left from previous life. And when we say imprints left by previous lives, it means the habits that we've established, that we've formed in previous lives.
All so that kama chonga matala ma so tini gari totally chitati bo totally this don't so ati gari chi yen kandika saryanen.
Lesser. Would you like to, we have 15 minutes left, so it would be good, since there are many new students, to do some questions, a session of questions. So now, instead of going through the text further, would you like to do that, to ask some questions?
Kari ina chidang susur tokpa kari chongna inchi michi ta chi chua shiu di go mar kari ina tigresi.
And you don't need to ask like a question that's specific to what we are teaching today, or it has to be a very deep question. It can be any doubt, any question that you might have.
For example, a wheat seed or a rice seed from a previous life, how does or when or how is the choice made as to which baby, for example, that seed would go to? I don't
Sorry,
know.
could you come closer to the computer, because I can't hear you clearly?
Wait, I can repeat it.
Thank you.
So she was asking about the seeds, how it is decided which seed or baby will be the one that is reborn. Like there's like more than one potential karma that can decide who is the baby, what are the conditions, and so on. And how is this decided?
Meaning, how does someone say, I'm going to be born from this body or from this parents or in this species or that species? Is that what you mean?
The mind, yeah, the read.
Yeah.
The
He has a mind, she says.
Okay, I understand. Geshe la chiwa di susu ta susu senju ani kewa dila ani mi ki kewa leya yore dundo ki kewa leya yore tene mi ki kewa lena ya ani mi chukpo da mi kyo da mi ki sokta yapo da duga da dende mambo da kebar mambo shiwa yore ba mi ki barula da senji ki barula ani di su da di su damgi yore mi ki koran damgi yore yamena 개발된서 간데 용이도.
그것도 자발 간디 온주레스래. 때때레샤 당아서 심장 간데지나 미나다 단다 미비 갑라 아니 소소가 레사스네 아주 유튜브야 아주 주단 지부 남샤지 시나 마도서 지금도 아니 주간데지 사바이네 주지 땅 템비가 드비케기 요장 아니 주두와다 먹기 아니 레디니 사 세나젠라 소바 아니 지금 밀리 짐바타야라 소바 딘디 마체니 데데바이나 아니 타기라나 시리 미질리 껴 렘바이나 야미 아니 바 케마 타디니 미 올포 타진 지금 나올게 아니 바 사야체 마라니 강에 몽고 체디야 딘디 키야데 수도 소송아마 아니 디 제사야다 미치 롱교야 아니 딘디 주야고 마주비야 손다 딘디지니 디지디야고 주마투 손다 딘디 체바레스 딘디 딘도 아니 나도 아니 지기당 다 티어 몽보질 계산 로리 줄라서 바 몽보지 손고 요래 또솔 계약의 주소소소소 됐어 먼저와 아니 디세 계 차이서 대양지 롱교 계약의 양지 주도서야 로카 용거여서 또소 주줍 땅 거기 딘디 차도 그래서 아니 메티아 페이지나 가서 딘디 손거래 친딜레 컨트롤 시부사 된게 지나 컨트롤 차고 시부지나 아니 끼어치면 동행 봐 아니 도두고 동행 딘디 미스이나 통나 마디바 딘디 어딘디 질 깨도 그래 끼야도 수 가르치 장아마 아니 장아마 때라 아니 컨트롤 몽부사데게 딘디도 깨수 딘디도 이치 다 딘디 라소베 딘디 에미 가른디 중거라테 가르레세나 아니 레레레 차버잖니 지기라 요모토스 셰요레스
Listen. So what decides rather who decides is what decides what type of body and what type of life and where we're born, etc. is the actions that we've previously committed. So here we must talk about the law of cause and effect. However, we don't have like lots of time to go very deep into the law of cause and effect. But what we're saying here is that there is a relationship between the result experienced and the cause that produced that result. So let's say that we are human beings, right? And in this human life, we say we accumulate karma. And what we mean by accumulating karma, it means we act in different ways. So sometimes we do virtuous actions and sometimes we do unvirtuous actions. Let's say that, for example, throughout this life, we are not very generous. We don't practice generosity that much. And instead of that, we are very, how do you say in English, avaricioso, miserly, right? We are very miserly and we keep everything that we have for ourselves and we never share with anyone. So due to these miserly actions, then in our next life it is possible that we are born without enough conditions to eat. We're born basically poor. Because we did not practice generosity. So certain conditions of our lives, like for example, not having money, come from very specific causes of having been miserly and not having practiced generosity in previous lives. Similarly, we can take rebirth in any of the six types of bodies, like for example, animals, human beings, etc. And it is said, for example, that if throughout this life we practice anger a lot, so we get angry very often, then in a future life we will be born very ugly. So ugliness, so being born in an ugly body that no one wishes to look at, is the result of having been very, very angry in previous lives. So every specificity of this life that we experience in our body or in our environment is the result of a previous action.
So we're still working on a microphone. Yeah.
Oh.
A bit more complicated to get it in there.
So when it says that, you know, that you go to this, so the cycle of birth and death need be experienced no more, where do you go when you're not constantly being reborn? What's the ultimate aim? Like heaven? Is it heaven or what is it?
Thank you. Ngazo korwana la kiegore chigore kadu inera yang ngazo korwale dena anna ngazo kiewa malena ngazo korwale dene kiewa malena ngazo kawa degires ngazo hayula deares ta migutso chochine ta tiwa ni dabudu chochine ngazo kiewa lemogo achana ngazo kawa degires hayula degires kawa degires chiche tene nieba de migutso ta migu tartu ki migu dikhareres.
So 어디서 당아주 단다 버든 콜에 기아데 단다 레다운 녀몽비 왕기 끼와린 친체 끼와코는 오코는 둥에레 끼와드 오이저레 둥에 인장 아니 자반도 지 둥어라 그래 둥어레 아니 딘디 끼와드 렌디온데 디 끼와데 양주시 데지 둥어 장장다 아니 코라잠니 도디요 당도 딜레 타리아 탑시 체네 타르바톱 체네 타르바톱 소나 Teni lenyo wangi kiwa tang ani shiwa so gogo mare yo mare makinaya mashina ka yore ngato desa ani tabi shingam la dewa channel dewa mata dunga yosal dego mare tiresha chi ani ngato mi tatu de kar go resena ani ngato tandani semjen chamal ngondo sticker de yoba doba tatu ba doba de kar go resena dunga chani ne mebachi 아니 대화 티 따도 같이 있는 여여바 대화 용기 어떤지 두고 그래 티 남이 다투도 때리 티 가르에서나 남비션이 다 다니 가려는 상지 이거 뭐 어디 더비하기 치고 그래시.
So you're right, we're in a constant cycle of birth and death, and this constant cycle of having to be reborn and then dying again, reborn and dying again is produced, or it's produced by karma and afflictions. And once we take rebirth, since birth is in the nature of suffering, once we are born, we are bound to suffer. There is no escaping suffering because we have to take birth, we get ill, then we get old, and then we die, and this happens over and over and over again. So escaping from this cycle of birth and death is what we call liberation. We liberate ourselves from the cycle of birth and death. This is what in Sanskrit is called nirvana, and in English is called liberation. And once we liberate ourselves from this constant cycle of birth and death, it's true, we do not have to take birth again within cyclic existence or samsara. So we abide in a place where there's only happiness and there's only pleasure, which is called a pure land. So in Buddhism, it's not a heaven, it's called a pure land. This is one answer to your question. Then the answer to what is the ultimate aim, well, what everything sentient beings want and wish for is to not have a single experience of suffering, and to only experience happiness and well-being constantly. This is everything we all want. Therefore, the state where we can guarantee where no more suffering is going to be experienced and only 100% happiness and well-being is going to be experienced is what we call enlightenment or Buddhahood. So this is the ultimate aim.
So in the West, we have a thing called deja vu, which is being there, a sense that overwhelms you. So I'm just wondering if
Buddhism has an equivalent of that, and whether that for Buddhism is like a recognition of a past life. There's a very strong sense, and I think we've probably all had it before, that you know in a situation you've been there at some stage.
이슬라 ngazo nupchola ane ngazo diye chirda ngazo déjà vu segidu déjà vu seya di khadere lamna nye ta gyurba ina tsiktenzo gyurba ina nga younger thongwa segidu khare younger thongwa khare lamna kiram penna langala do ane langala do jamba hobde kala ane chorwa shu chimlegidu ane o nga dila lemnyo da sacha dila nga lemnyo gi chorwa da samlo shu chimbo yongidu ta ngama tongsa yoba dawo chik chorwa shu chimbo shibulegidu di deja vu segidu ane mi khashiki nupchola mi khashiki di kewa ngama tandawa yore peche kewa ngama keran lamga tawara ane de yeba gen la dene ane kewa de la sorwa shu chimbo dende yongidu ta nga zo mi tsam ta mi manchewa sorwa dende nyon sigire nambe chela dende yorebe ane di korla samsu khare yus
라서 다가라레 어디 사자 기당 또니네 로마뇽 사지라 드론디 토지고지 나와지라 나만이 렘 용기가 나와도 딘디레 요바 다가나 텐데 용구요레 미 몽골 용구요레 티 용구요레 티 다가랑 타기라나 셰레 나마 사자티다 데라 몽골 드 용야다 데 용야 키와 나마 딘디 겐기 아니 사자 지금 통화다 지금 레온디 아니 디가 아니 지금 나마 콤비 바샤가 왕게 뜻세니 남사 지금 템바도 지금 세우지 참마토네 지금 다 간다레 라마시아도 지금 간다레 레레즈니 레메교도 지금 말레레즈네 지금 초나도 지금 레야게 나와도 지금 어디야 되는 용거를 텐데 용거 대가마 경험하들이 텐텐 지게뇨하다 드리도 비인게 이레스
You're right. This is something that can really happen when sometimes you go to a place where you've never been before, and then you get a very strong feeling that you've been there before, and you can't really. It's a very strong feeling that you can't really put. Sometimes you can't even put words to it, and it's not that you can clearly remember how you are related to that place, but in some way there is a very, very strong feeling that you've been there before, and I think that probably comes from the awakening of your own mental imprints that you left in previous lives. And it's probably that in previous lives you've been there many, many times, and due to your mind being accustomed to be there in a previous life, then in this life, even though you've never been there before, you have this very strong feeling sensation that you've been there before. And it's like you can recognize something, but you can't really put it into words. And sometimes it's not even clear exactly what you recognize, but you do recognize something. And I think this probably comes from the power of your habits and your previous lives.
디 가르 제가 디 남바가 다든 디 저레 축구다다 디 다다 양시 문제 제저라는 딘디 가블 라마 침보도 가리 여르든 아마 그런 거 윤땡게 라바 모보창데서 주부다 아니 돌진다고 당 야모다고 당 포반다고 또 킨도네 코 모보냠데샤니 파기 똥간도도 아니 키왕 아마 그런 거디 아니 가르스는 모보 콤니 그런 거 주디야도 그런 거 하고니 그런 거 디나니 부춘주인디야 딘디제니 주토야 딘디 거 아래 또 같이 kiawa ngama di kompito yada pacha mabusha to ki injire odingo de chigores.
And in fact, in the recognition of reincarnated lamas, one of the tests that they have to go through is that on a table they put different objects, and for example, like a bell or a dorje, a vajra, or a mala, or a piece of clothing, for example, and they mix it, and they put the objects of the lama that passed away and many other objects. So they mix it together, and through the power of this imprints left from previous life, the reincarnated lama, among all of the objects, is able to recognize the objects that belonged to him or her in their previous life. So I believe this is a kind maybe of deja vu, but it comes from the awakening of the imprints of previous lives.
all of tini danda teringi chuzwe de tu tini jesam rodu ani chama to na jini yabu nye ya dan tro su pe yabu dan su chama tuji che pe yabu chong sans.
So the time is over, and I want to thank all of you for showing so much interest and for asking such good questions. Thank you very much to everyone.
Also ani sani na ikya je on.
And we'll see each other tomorrow, same time, same place.
So
Bye bye, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Goodbye. Thank you.
that's good je.
That's a good lashi din sabo.
Also to jina ne.
They are.
Question. And in, like in Christianity, they say, you have all the archangels and the angels that look after you, like your guardian angels and the angels that protect you. Is there a, so, you've got a guardian angel who's looking after you? Because I know once my sister always used to say to me, there's a